All right, everyone. How are you? Let's get right into it. Welcome to this week's episode of our podcast, Is Breakfast Included? We have a great show for you today. My friend Matt Novesky is on. Matt Noveskey plays bass for the band Blue October. He's also co-owner of Orb Studios right there in Austin, Texas. I met Matt a few weeks ago. I was a guest at the Blue October show, and within a few minutes of meeting him, like, this guy gave out such good vibes and such good energy. I wanted him on the show, so I reached out to him. He agreed. We had a great conversation. He tells me how he got into the band, which is kind of really cool. It seems like not a big deal nowadays, but back in mid-90s when he did this, it was quite a leap of faith to leave everything you know to come all the way to Texas and join what at the time was a local band. A local band with some heat, but a local band nonetheless. There were no promises back then. And he talks about what that was like, what he's gone through, and what they're doing now. It was a fun conversation, and I had a great time talking to Matt. Let's check it out. Tell everyone who you are.
Okay, I'm Matt Novesky. I'm a bass player for Blue October and producer and co-owner of Orb Recording Studios in Austin, Texas.
All right. Are you from Austin?
I'm not, actually. I've been there, 98. I moved down at the end of 98, early 99. So I think I've been there long enough.
So you're a bona fide Texan now, right?
I'm a bona fide Texan. I've been there long enough I can join the growing choir of people that are complaining about all the people moving there, right? But I am a transplant. I actually grew up in Traverse City, Michigan, northern Michigan, way up there. Not the UP, not quite the UP, but yeah, beautiful, snowy Traverse City, Michigan, down to Austin, Texas.
Right on, man. Did you grow up in a musical family, or are you like the only musician in your family?
No, very musical family. I actually had two uncles, one on each side, both named Jim, both played bass, and they were both phenomenal bass players. They both actually passed away, but they're both phenomenal bass players. And when I was a kid, I would go see my uncle play, mostly my uncle Jim Novesky, but I would go see him play a lot. My dad would go, take me when I was really little to go see him play, and in the bands he was in all around Michigan and, different places they would play in the area. And then my grandparents, my grandmother played organ, my grandfather played guitar. And I would say the biggest influence on me was actually my older brother. My brother's 4 years older than me. He's a drummer. And he's a Neil Peart, fanatic. He's like, I've never met anybody that was such a fan of one person's setup so much as my brother was with Neil. And so growing up, having uncles that play bass and everything, I was like, well, I want to jam with my big brother. I want to play with him, so let me borrow a bass and try to learn YYZ or Tom Sawyer or whatever and jam along with my brother. And that's kind of how it all started,
right.
But
so
being able to play with my brother. Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. And then I realized he wasn't that cool as I got older,
I know, right?
It's like, I'm way cooler than he is.
Yeah. So I guess the question would be, are there any non-musicians in your family?
My parents.
Really?
Neither one of my parents, man. I have uncles that played, and my brother, and then my grandparents. So I don't know if it skips. I don't know. I don't know how that worked out, but neither one of my parents are really musically inclined whatsoever. Although I do have to give credit to both of my parents, but my dad specifically. My dad's record collection is amazing. It's like, everybody had records, right? But some people had oh, you got to see my dad's record collection or my uncle's record or collection or whatever it was. But my dad's is pretty legendary. Honestly, I just remember hearing like all the Motown songs growing up, listening to very bass heavy, James Jamerson bass heavy tracks growing up, So I think that was I think that had a big influence on me when I was a kid as well.
Right on.
Hearing the bass line. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no other iconic bassist than to
there's the
build
man
off of. Is that
yeah. I mean, and I was also I feel like most bass players are either they were the worst guitar player in the band, that it was you're playing bass, you're on bass, it has four strings, you go over there, or you're really drawn to the bass, and I was really drawn to the bass. I actually I picked up the guitar. I mean, I still play some guitar just to kind of facilitate songwriting or like, add parts or whatever. And I've actually played guitar in quite a bit of the Blue October stuff on the records over the years, but it just doesn't come natural to me at all. It just feels very foreign to me playing chords and stuff. And I'm like, this is just weird. Like the bass to me has always been kind of like I get to play drums and guitar and meld it all into this one thing. And it's just such a percussive instrument.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it for sure. Yeah.
There's nothing I love more than hearing a bassist and a drummer that are just right there in the pocket. That a good rhythm section.
That's like the best feeling in the world too. When you connect with the drummer, and it's like, and you just anticipate where they're going to go. It's like, oh man, you're putting the kick right where I want it. I know exactly there's just like this weird unspoken language that kind of happens between you and drummers. And Jeremy and I definitely, like, we've been playing together for so long too, 20 some years, that we have this unspoken just thing. Like we know where we're going to go, and then playing with my brother is very much that way as well. Like we really just mesh very well together musically. But then I have like a couple of the drummers that I've been really lucky to play with over the years that I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm really spoiled, honestly, because I've been really blessed to play with like some of the best drummers I've ever heard.
Right on.
It forces you to be a better player for sure. It's like, oh, I got to step up.
Yeah. So watching your uncles play as a young kid, did because I've heard your bass tone. I meant to ask you about it the other night when Patrick was line checking.
Yeah.
Has bass tone always been important to you since the beginning, or were you just a bass player that slowly learned about the bass tone?
To be honest with you, so tone has always been really important to me, and tone was always something that I feel like I struggled with for a long time, because it just never, like the records that I loved, right, and like some of the players that I love, like I gotta say Flea, I have to, but there's this one part in it's on Uplift Mofo Party Plan, but it's like this bass breakdown that Flea does. And I was like, why does my PV Foundation not sound like that? Why does my PV TKO not sound like that? Why does my Kramer Focus not sound like that? Why, so for years and years and years, it took me a long time to really understand pickups and wood and just everything, like, the neck pocket, everything about the bass and the amp, and like the relationship between the two, and not over equalizing everything, and just kind of letting the instrument breathe and do its thing. And like all those things took me years and years and years to really figure out.
Yeah.
But I was just saying the other day that I feel like I have my tone, and I have for a few years now. I've only had the tone that I really love for the last 5 years, maybe. And I have several basses, all different kinds. I have a hollow body and Fenders and everything, but there's something about a Sandberg jazz bass and an Aguilar together that's just my sound.
Yeah.
It's just my sound.
Is that what you have on stage? Is that
it is, yeah. And I have to give a shout out also to CHC Guitars. It's a buddy of mine who builds guitars in Austin, and they're phenomenal. I love those basses so much.
Okay.
So like those and Sandbergs, I would just say are just that's my thing. That's my sound. I love that piano. I like Stanley Clark a lot, so growing up, or like Level 42, Mark King. I love that just kind of piano tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really my thing. And then, for like the classic P bass sound, I have a Sandberg. I have my pink bass that they made for me. I've got a Sandberg P bass that it nails it for me, so. But I love Aguilar too. Amps were the big one for me for a long time. I just couldn't ever quite find the amp that did it for me, and Aguilar are just, I just have no reason to play anything else. It's like, that's my sound.
Yeah. We're going through that right now, trying to find the right amps.
Oh,
we're stuck with, right now we're using GK.
GK are fantastic. They're fantastic.
They're Fusion
they
head.
Are.
And,
yeah.
And that's what he started off in the beginning of his career.
Like the 800s, maybe
I don't know.
Big heavy GKs that look like blocks, right?
Oh,
like
those are the Fusion 500s. Yeah, the Fusion 500s. No, so we have a smaller version of that now. It only weighs like a couple pounds.
Yeah,
that's what we're using now, and they sound great, man. But I heard your tone, and I thought, oh, what is that?
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I it took me a while to really like buy into this whole like super light, solid state, like, really? I'm used to these big amps that like are supposed to give you a hernia, like if it's not big and tubed, then is it really right? And the minute that I started playing the Aguilar tone hammer amps, it just clicked for me. Honestly, I was like, I love these. I use them in the studio. I use them on tour. Yeah. I don't change anything, that's just the sound. I don't even mic up the caps.
I heard a story about you, and I don't know if you can talk about it here, but I heard you got an interesting phone call from a pretty big bass player about your Aguilar amps.
Oh man. Like, talk about being on the spot. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I can definitely, yeah. So we were, and this was a while back, 2000, I want to say 2008 was when we were in the studio working on Approaching Normal, and Steve Lillywhite was our producer. And it was like, we'd worked with producers before, but Steve Lillywhite and all the big albums that he did, it was already so just intimidating being in the studio with him, and so like a week into it or so, I like show up one day, and the minute I walk in, it's like everybody in the room is just kind of like got this grin, like this funny look on their face. And I'm like, what did I do? And Steve's like, oh yeah, mate, hold on, he's right here. Hold on 1 second. And he hands the phone to me, and he's just like, I'm like, what is this? I don't know who this is. And I'm like, hello. And the guy's like, yeah, Matt, I hear you have really great tone. And I'm looking at new amps right now, and I'm really interested in Aguilar. And I'm like, thank you. Yeah, who is this? And he's like, yeah, this is Adam Clayton. And I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I'm like, I can't believe I'm about to tell Adam, yeah, you should try these amps. I grew up listening to your bass lines, like I've worshipped you forever. I'm going to give you advice about tone. I don't know. I don't think so. But he wound up loving them, and he wound up actually playing Aguilar for years and years and years. And like, I was relatively new to the Aguilar family at that time. So like to be able to call up my buddy and be like, hey man, you're going to get an email. You may have heard of this guy. Like that was a joke. It was a great feeling, man. And they were stoked about it for sure.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. I heard that story, and I thought,
it was pretty cool.
Sometimes it's, sometimes it's the guys that are in big bands like that. They're like, they've reached a point where the gear is just foreign to them. And they rely on their techs, or they rely on their producers to like turn them on to stuff.
That's so true. It's so true that you say that. And, I think that like, I think Dallas, he's like a really well-known tech. He worked for them for years. And I think he just did so much for them and took so much off their plate that I think, it's like you said, Adam was just like, let's try that. Like it's just not, I don't think he was sitting around like trying to track his bass like I am, I just don't see that happening. It's like the world is just a different oyster altogether, so, but I, not having any real hobbies, like I just love playing. I still get excited about it. I still nerd out about it. I still look at gear all the time. I fell asleep looking at gear last night, like
I go down these rabbit holes about even like just that mic that I just showed you.
Yeah.
It was like an ad on my social media. And then I just started going down this rabbit hole on YouTube about it. And I ordered one. Like,
you gotta love YouTube.
Should I be spending money on another mic? Probably not. Right. But it just seemed so like the thing that I needed at the time.
Yeah.
And it's worked out really great, But
that's awesome.
Guitars, I'm an SG guy, so I just play mainly SGs. But
I love SGs. I always think of Brian May when I think of SGs. Like, that's cool. Yeah, it's funny though how they know what you're looking for too, right? I'll like get on Instagram and it's like, do I really need to look? Okay, there's another ad. How do they know what I want?
And when I get off the phone with you, it'll probably be the same thing.
Same.
And you an improved tool of mic.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
We got him.
Yeah. Oh, they know. Marketing genius.
So you are not Blue October's original bass player.
No. No. So there was actually a girl in the band, and she's awesome. Like we actually became friends when I moved down and joined the band. But she I want to say the band started in 95 and I joined in 98. So for the first 3 years, the band was really kind of getting its bearings and playing shows and starting to make a name, around Texas. She was the bass player, and they actually did an album together with her. So the first album, which is called The Answers, they did it all. They funded it all themselves, and they did it. They were like self-managed and everything at the time. Actually, Justin and Jeremy's parents were managing the band. So she was in the band, and when I came down, I think it was a situation where they realized that there were other people getting involved, and it was a wait a minute, this is turning into a people are showing up and we're doing really well to now labels are looking like they're going to get interested, and this is really starting to take off. And I don't know that she was totally comfortable with that. I don't know that was something she 100% wanted to do. I, on the other hand, living in Traverse City, Michigan, playing in 20 bands, it is what I wanted to do. It's all I wanted to do. It's like, I think back to like Battle of the Bands and like making flyers, and like, I didn't care about school. I just cared about Battle of the Bands. I just cared about playing shows, and to college, like, going to college and like, playing gigs every weekend, it's like all I really cared about. So, we met through a mutual, industry friend, actually, who was based out of Michigan. And, and he kind of explained the situation to me. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to go fall in love with this band and maybe she wants to stay. Like, what then, but it all worked out perfectly, honestly. Yeah. And as they say, the rest is history,
Right on.
A long time ago.
So you came on board just as things started happening for Blue October.
Well, things were happening, but it was also, honestly, it was a giant leap of faith because there was no deal in place or anything like that.
They were still considered a local band.
It was a local band.
Yeah.
And there were people taking notice, like the guy who actually brought me down, that were in the industry and everything, but there was no, there wasn't like an offer on the table or anything like that. And this was back in the days of traditional record label deals, if you got signed, you got discovered, you got signed, it's like, I don't even know how it's done now, but back then that was kind of how it was. And so I went and saw the band. I heard the record and I was like, this is cool. The lyrics are definitely, I was actually in a band that was way more R&B and hip hop influenced at the time. So it was a stretch for me at the time, but I heard kind of some of the like 80s influence and some of the almost kind of Depeche Mode and The Cure and some of that, and that attracted me to it. But it wasn't until I saw the show, I came down and saw the show, and I saw Justin perform, and I was like, there's that intangible thing that you either got or you don't. And I don't care how good of a singer you are, I don't care how good of a writer you are, you can get on stage and hold a crowd in the palm of your hand like that, that's special. And when I witnessed that, I just went, I'm in right now. Sign me up. Let's do it. And I broke my lease and I packed up my little Volkswagen and took what I could fit, I took my bass,
That is quite a leap of faith to pretty much leave everything on a not even a sure shot,
It made it that much sweeter, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I remember I graduated from this Catholic high school where I had like 50 some kids in my class, right? So we're all really close and tight. We all came up together. And so moving away and having people be like, what? You're moving to Texas? Like, what are you doing? To being able to come back, sign to Universal, playing playing big shows. And then, I remember actually coming back to my high school, and I had this math teacher who was such a jerk all through school. He was always giving me a hard time. He actually put me in detention because I went to a Rush concert, and he found out I skipped school to go see Rush, and he put me in detention. So years later, it's like 2007 maybe, I go back and my niece went to school there. She's playing a basketball game, and I'll never forget this. And I'm definitely not like, oh, sign autographs. Like, that's not at all, that's so whatever to me. But for whatever reason, there were these kids and they were like, oh yeah, we love your band, blah, blah, blah. So I signed some autographs, and I look over, and guess who's standing right next to me is that math teacher. and he gave me such a hard time about music and yeah, that's a pipe dream, blah blah. And I just looked over, and I will never forget just being able to go, yeah. I took a chance and it worked.
Yeah.
So there you go, buddy.
That's a pretty sweet feeling, isn't it?
It was the best. I mean, honestly, it was like.
I mean, I don't think people live their whole life put it in people's face. You know,
right? Rub it in their face.
It's validating when you know.
That's the word I would say. It definitely.
It's not even about being famous or rich or anything. It's like you did what you said you were going to do.
Yeah. I mean, to back, in whatever 93 or 92 or whatever that was. Like I knew then that's what I wanted to do. I did. I wasn't unsure at all.
I've always I wanted to be in a band when I was younger, and it wasn't until I started playing in bands that I realized I just want to be part of the show.
Yeah,
and
man.
I don't have to be on stage, and to end up doing what I'm doing, it was by accident, but I think I'd put it in my brain when I was really young that I'm just going to be part of it.
Yeah. It's such a cool gig too, it's when you get to work with a band that you love and you become friends with, and you get to see the world and experience all these things. And I totally I get that, because, and I think it kind of comes to second nature of being a bass player, maybe to some degree, but I'm really uncomfortable with the spotlight. Honestly, I don't like, I love having discussions, and I love, meeting people and talking to kids after the show and taking pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, I need to be in the spotlight whatsoever. I love the behind the scenes stuff. I produce, I think that's a big reason I make records, and I love being like working on the behind the scenes stuff. So I totally get that point of view. It's like, I love the machine and I love contributing to it, but I have zero desire. Oh God, I feel terrible for Justin. Like that guy can't go to Target without getting accosted by people. I'm like, thank God I don't have to deal with that.
Right. And he, it's not like he can just put on sunglasses and disguise.
No way. No.
So once you joined the band, did you hit it off with everyone right away, or did you kind of have to earn their, did they take
if I had to? It's funny you asked that. I've never been asked that before. If I had to earn anybody's trust, it was Ryan. It was absolutely Ryan, because Ryan he's our wizard, right? He's our musical genius. He can play everything, but he's also very guarded and like, I don't know about that. I don't like change, and he was like, so when I stepped in, I think he and Liz were very close. And I think it was like, who's this guy? I don't know about this, but I think I won him over with my sense of humor really quickly, and we just became such good friends that, like, to this day, like, if I really need, honestly, if I'm having a day, or if I really need somebody's advice, or I need to lean on somebody, he's my guy. He's like that guy I can cry to. He's that guy I can, like, I'm really missing my kids or whatever it is. But I would say with the brothers, with Justin and Jeremy, it was like instant. It was like I remember when we first got together and I met them. I was with the guy that introduced me to them, and then I was with another guy who was a music manager. He managed like Skinny Puppy and a bunch of like industrial bands. Mm-hmm. And they were all talking business, and Justin and I were both just like, that's just noise. Let's hang out and get to know each other. We hit it off right away. And like, I just felt instantly at home, to be honest with you. I just felt like this is a family vibe, down to their parents.
Yeah.
Like the fact their parents were there selling merch. I was like, this is amazing. I love this. This is so cool. So unique.
Cool. Being in a band with a cat like Justin.
Yeah. I think I know what you're going to ask me.
No. Being in a band with someone like him, does that make you a little more at ease, that you don't have to be as upfront, or as
I can just show up and play bass, man.
He owns the stage. You show up, you play bass. And Ryan, of course, the other night when I saw you guys play, he was holding a violin on his chin and playing mandolin, and I don't know what he was doing with his feet, but he could have been doing something with his feet. I wasn't watching. Like, he was just,
Yeah. So no, that's not what I thought you were going to ask me. So Justin, no, you're absolutely right. It really affords me the opportunity to just kind of focus on playing. And what I get told by a lot of people, and it's funny because sometimes people are like, smile, and I'm like, it's not that I'm not having a good time. It's that playing bass, as corny as it sounds, is it's very spiritual to me. And it's
Uh-huh.
like when I'm playing, I don't want to just get up and, hey, I'm performing. I want to actually, I want to put my heart into it. And I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
want to feel it I want to feel every single note when I'm playing it. And I really zone out when I play. And that's just the way I've always been. And so I think some people are like, oh, you're very stoic. And I'm like, well, that's cool.
yeah.
That's cool. I can be the bass player and be stoic and be
Right on.
chill, but Justin, just being such a great front man, really does allow everyone the opportunity to kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah,
If you want to be chill, you can. If you want to take your moment to shine, you can. And you can take turns or whatever that is, do a little
yeah.
solo, whatever that is. But he's just an undeniable front man. He really is.
He
I
is.
get lost sometimes watching him.
Yeah. What did you think I was going to ask you about it?
I thought you were going to ask me if he's like that all the time, because he is just on 11 all the time.
I
Like,
met
my
him that
nickname
night.
is Extra.
I met him that night, and he treated me like he'd known me all his life.
It's not
So
BS, man. Like,
yeah,
that's just who he is. He is not, one thing that I really learned from and I really appreciate and love about the guy is that he doesn't, it's not that he doesn't have a filter. He just doesn't care. Like,
yeah,
he's not like, oh, I have to, like, there has to be some formality for us to break down the barriers before we get to know each other. He's just like, I'm all in, like, there's nothing to hide. It's all out in the open. Let's, like, and he's extremely charismatic because of that. And I think that draws people in, because people every day are just used to, like, the grind, right? You're used to, like, the formalities of meeting people, and, like,
yeah,
and it's different when you meet somebody that really doesn't have any walls up whatsoever. It's kind of, at first it's like, whoa, but that's just who he is, man.
yeah.
And I love that. Yeah.
So you have a family of kids.
I do. Yeah. I got a
How many?
bunch.
Huh?
No, I got three. I have three
3 kids.
kids. Yeah.
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 I have a son, and the better part of his childhood, I was on the road. So
I can relate.
yeah. How do
Yeah.
you handle that with them, to let them know that, like, that's your
Well,
gig, and you're not just leaving, but
yeah. Yeah. So I think that, one thing that that I think about a lot, and I when I talk to younger musicians, or like when I'm mentoring, or I'm, producing a band, we'll talk about this. And I think there's a difference when it's all you've ever done versus, well, I've been playing bars and then all of a sudden I got offered a gig and now I'm going to go on the road, So when you grow up with that, and you kind of grow up knowing dad is gone for a month and then he's home for a month,
yeah,
versus dad is at work and we get to hang out a little bit more on the weekends, like it was with my father. I just think that that's what you're used to, and that's just what life is, right?
yeah,
And that's just kind of the way things are. If anything, the pandemic was when it all turned upside down. It was like, Dad, why are you here all the time?
right,
Like, go get out and go do something, and it was like, you're screwing up our routine. But I do have to say, like, when my daughter is 15, she's my oldest, then I have two boys. One is 10 and almost 11, and one is just turned 7. Technology, man, FaceTime is incredible. I was just FaceTiming with my youngest, 30 minutes ago, and he just FaceTimes me on his iPad. Whenever he gets home from school, he's like, hey, Dad, what's up? So
yeah,
we can see each other, we can talk, we can catch up, and it's completely different than like with my daughter. She's 15, but when she was a kid, when she was little, that didn't exist. So it was like, if there was time, I could maybe get her on the phone and maybe tell her I love her, or maybe say this or say that or whatever. And that was it. So I think it was actually a little harder on her than it is on my boys because of that.
okay,
If that makes sense.
yeah. She experienced a little of the before tech touring.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I talk to these old cats that have been touring for years, and they tell me the stories about, yeah, we had to wait for a truck stop and to get a calling card, and then,
Oh my God. I actually have a funny story about calling
and
cards.
back when the hotels used to charge you for calls if they weren't local call, or charge you for local calls. But so yeah, when I started touring, it was still around the calling card days, but
Oh my God. So funny enough, we had this guy that was actually, he was I guess he was like doing artist development with us. It's the guy that actually introduced me to the band. And he had and I remember that he had these calling cards, and he made the mistake of giving these calling cards to Justin and I. And it was also one of those things where you'd always get a bill later for whatever. It's like, let me take you to dinner. And then like, a month later, it's like, well, here's your bill. And that includes the dinner that I took you to. So I'll never forget Justin and Jeremy's dad sitting Justin and I down. And he was like, you guys got to stop using these calling cards because you've racked up these huge bills using this guy's calling card. Because we had girlfriends, when we were on the road, it was like, oh, I got to talk to her every 5 minutes, so. Yeah. Oh my God. I don't miss that at all. I don't miss going to the gas station, getting the little prepaid 30-minute cards,
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Please insert 4 more quarters or.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a different world now.
So you guys are out right now.
We are.
You're on the road. Where are you today?
I am in Little Rock, Arkansas. There you go. There's some mall or whatever it is. You know how it is. Yeah. Little Rock today.
Normal day off?
Man, I actually, it just kind of depends. We've been doing a lot of like 5 in a row shows. Like we don't do like, I know a lot of, bands will do like 2 days and then a day off and 2 days. And when we toured with Goo Goo Dolls, it was a lot. We weren't used to having that many days off, but we do a lot. We'll do 5 in a row and then have a day off or 2 days off. And so there's a lot of catch up, to be honest with you. I have a studio back home. So outside of like us going and having dinner together or whatever it is, like with the band and crew, because we all hang out, we're all friends. There's no like, well, the band's over here and the crew's here. We're all like just hang constantly. It's a big family. So we'll do that kind of stuff, and then we'll all go do stuff together and try to get out, try to go get some steps in, try to go, if there's something outdoors to do or something to see, go to a beach, whatever that is. But I just have so much work to do, and I have so much to catch up on back home that I'm almost always like anticipating a record coming up. So right now I have 2 projects that I'm actually preparing for. I had a writing session today, actually. So I have I'm preparing for when I get home, I've got work to do, so, and now with Zoom and everything else, you can't hide. Yeah. It's like, it's like, I need you to work, and I need you to do it from wherever you are. And like, okay, so that's the life.
So like a lot of the musicians I know, they're only a musician for those 2 hours on stage. This is your life. Like when you're not playing music, you're recording music, or
there's 2 things I think that I've been really lucky to like be able to kind of like incorporate into what I do, because they are, related to this whole like musical thing. And one is when I did go to school, I went to school to be a teacher. And so I love working with kids. I love working with younger kids. I love mentoring. I've been really lucky to be able to do that. I work with, I have a younger staff at the studio. And so I like, when I get back, it's kind of like, oh, here's dad, like, so we sit down and we talk about, just everything, like all the philosophical things, everything that, that matter as far as making music and production and all those things. And then I get to work with a lot of younger kids and that want to learn how to songwrite and want to learn how to produce or sing, play. And then making records. That's the other thing. The first real record we made with this guy named Nick Launay, who I still just absolutely adore to this day. I didn't know what a producer was back then. As we're going to make a record, it was like, and here's your producer. And I'm like, what does a producer do? What do they do? Like, I don't know what that is. And then when I got to see what he actually did, I was like, it kind of this light bulb went off for me, because I was like, I've always been the guy in every band I've ever been in that was like, no, that verse sucks. Or like, hey, this is way too long, or you should repeat that, or whatever that is. Like, I've always really played that role behind the scenes. And I was watching him work, and I was like, I don't think the engineering aspect of it is for me, but the song aspect of it is absolutely, that's what I love. That's what I get off on, So I've been really, really lucky to be able to make a career out of that as well. So yeah, I don't stop working. I've always got something in queue for when I get home.
Right on. Yeah. You said you like mentoring younger people.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you could give a band right now that's, the music business isn't what it was when you guys got a deal?
Absolutely.
Even after a few years after you got to do it, changed completely. What kind of advice would you give them, like to I mean, social media is the big thing now, and I've heard that bands are writing songs just to get them on TikTok to play
Just on
behind
TikTok, man.
You know,
Here's a minute long song just to
yeah,
make sure it's not too long. You know, it's
yeah,
like, no, you're right. It's. I mean, I feel like it's kind of the Wild West right now as far as the whole industry is concerned. You know,
yeah.
I mean, they're signing bands just off social media. You don't even care what the show is. You know, it's like if you got huge numbers and it's going viral, then you can get a deal. And
Yeah.
there's just a kind of a crazy aspect to it now. But the thing to me is, I feel like just like anything in life, you know, there's pros and cons to all of this. And the way that things used to be, it was really hard for bands to get off the ground because you had to go through this filter. The A&R stations, if they wanted to make room for you, and you know, and then getting a deal, and then seeing if you could even, because our first album actually tanked in Universal. We were actually signed to them twice, you know, so being dropped by a record label and seeing how that works had a pretty profound impact on me, you know. But like, that's how things used to be. Now you can do it all yourself, like 100% yourself. You don't need the machinery behind you. But here's the thing that gets lost on people, and this is what I just absolutely preach because I feel like it's 100% true. Be you. Don't be anybody else. Don't copy anybody else. Don't concern yourself with what's trendy or what, because there's so much music out there now, because anybody can record it, anybody can upload it and put it out there so people can stream it and see it and hear it. So there's so much more music that it's great, you know, for artists to be able to do these things themselves, but you have to cut through all that noise because there's so much more now. There's so much, like, I would say, not quality music, or, you know, just not very original, not great stuff. So I think if you believe in yourself and you really think that your music is worth being heard and you have something to say, I think the most important thing is, okay, well, what is it about you that makes you you? Not because you sound like Steven Tyler, or because you can play bass like Jamerson or whoever, like none of that. What is it about you that's special and unique and is not like anything else? Because that's what people now more than ever are looking for. They're not going on, you know, YouTube and like, oh, okay, I want to find something that sounds like this. No, they're like, I want to hear something I've never heard. I want to see something I've never seen. You know, so that would be my piece of advice, is figure out what it is that makes you tick.
Right on, man. That. Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said, but nobody's asking me, Matt. Well, man, being on the road, like myself, when I lived in Texas, the minute I got on a plane, to go somewhere else, the one thing I missed was Whataburger. Oh. No matter where I was going, like. It became a joke in our organization. Like,
and they're starting to spread out now too. I think there's Whataburgers and a few other, like, I think California. California has a water. They're getting a Whataburger.
There's one. I thought it went as far as the last one I saw was like Arizona, Phoenix.
Maybe that's it. Yeah. I actually had Whataburger the very first night that I lived in Texas. Actually, because the guys in the band were like, "You got to have it."
What do you miss about Texas the minute you start going on tour, other than your kids, of course?
I would say barbecue. You know, I mean, I know you can get good barbecue everywhere, but like, I just the Texas barbecue, man.
Something special about it, right?
The Salt Lick or Black's barbecue, you know, and I love Memphis barbecue as well. I really like sweet barbecue, you know, but I don't know. I just feel like people try to do the Texas barbecue in other places, and it's not the same.
Like, there's good barbecue here and you know, where I live, but it's not like Texas barbecue. And I'm not up here like telling people like, oh, it's not like home. I just accept what I have and I'm happy that it's here.
You're just grateful, you know.
Yes, I'm grateful. Well, man, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah. Me too. Thanks for having me.
Really. When I met you, I think I'd been talking to you for like 5 minutes, and in my head I was like, I'm gonna ask this guy to be on my podcast.
That's awesome. Well, anytime,
you just give out this good energy. Give out this good energy, man.
No, I appreciate that. Now we just got to get Adam Clayton on it, and we'll be good to go.
I know, right? The name of my podcast is called "Is Breakfast Included?" And if it was included, what would you be having right now?
Oh man.
So when I see you in Austin, I know.
So
I know what to
this actually goes back to the question you just asked a minute ago. Kirby Lane. That's a restaurant. It's an Austin staple, right?
Uh-huh.
But they have this thing called the Eggs Francisco. It's an English muffin, and it's got potatoes, scrambled eggs, bacon, avocado, and queso poured all over it. That would be it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
amazing.
a first.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that's a first.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it.
Well, we have a couple of days off in Austin while we're there. So.
Do it. You will not be disappointed, I promise you. But here's the thing. You can't get it to go. You gotta eat it there. I mean, it's queso and eggs on a, you know what I mean? That can't get cold.
Yeah.
That's nasty. You gotta eat it right.
Yeah, you gotta hit it while it's fresh.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Matt, it was a pleasure meeting you, man. Thanks for your time, and
you too.
Have a great rest of your tour.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
And I've got your number. I'll hit you up when we get to town.
Yeah, please do. Anytime. Come by the studio. Love to show it to you.
Take care, brother.
Thanks,
good talking to you.
You too.
Matt Novesky. You can find everything you need to know about Blue October at blueoctober.com. If they're coming to your town, go check them out. Say hi to Matt. Listen to that bass tone. It is ungodly. And then the band is amazing as well. They're amazing live, just top-notch musicians in that band. Orb Studios, you can find them on Instagram at Orb Studios ATX. Of course, you can find Matt on Instagram. I ain't gonna give out his shit. Just check it out. You can find him if he wants you to. Anyway, like I said, go check out the band. All right, guys, I'm done. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.